Welcome to a once in a decade That Guy's a Maniac event, the podcast. My name's Kunzi11. I am joined by Richie, and today we've got a very special episode of the That Guy's a Maniac podcast. Richie, say hello.
Hello. It is a special episode. Yep.
And if people were interested in the That Guy's a Maniac Corporation brands and products, where would they find us?
Well, they could find us using the tag at That Guy's a Maniac, all one word, all lowercase, Farley, all lowercase.
It's important to stress.
And you can find us on all your usual social medias, your YouTubes, your Facebooks, your Twitters, your Instagrams, etc.
Facebooks.
Yeah.
Okay. And how we bring this once in a 10-year event to people's ear holes.
Well, such quality broadcasts as the one that you are currently listening to couldn't be brought into existence without the help of a little, financial aid from our sponsors. And this week, we are sponsored by the proud folks at Ammunition. For all your gun and ammo needs that you can't find just dropped off of the police in general.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Ammunition.
Cheers, Ammunition.
So today we're on the cusp of seeing out 2020, the year 2020. So we thought we would do our sort of games of the decade roundup. So we're both picking 4 games, which has been particularly challenging to talk about, and we're using the years 2010 to 2020. How have you found doing this exercise, Richard?
I actually found it reasonably easy, but yeah, I was thinking about all the games that I'd spent the most amount of time on or enjoyed to a sort of like high degree. Yeah, I just found out that it's all these games that get the usual fucking 95% and things like that.
Oh god, so mainstream.
I know, I was like, this I feel too bad. So I had to switch it up a little bit and put some obscure ones in there. But yeah, there's a definite trend towards actually these critics and metacritics and whatever else being right. Oh, who doesn't fucking turn off his phone when he's on a podcast?
Hey,
Pricky boy Prickerson, that's who.
It's
right.
you for a change, not me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find it really difficult. And like you're like, if I just pick the 4 games that I probably sunk the most time in or really enjoyed, I think anyone who listens to this podcast could probably have guessed them. So I was like, well, how about some thematic or kind of thinking about what happened in 10 years. And then basically...
Well, I'll be honest with you, like, the most obvious ones that I could choose were going to be Pokemon and World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
But I decided I was just not going to include that for the sake of the listeners not having to hear us fucking ramble on about Pokemon and World of Warcraft. Apologies if you've got Pokemon, Farley. I've no idea what ones you've chosen.
Right, I've been changing this list up until we hit record. Yeah, there are a few options.
Yeah.
But I don't know. So all I've been doing is just kind of trawling through Wikipedia pages year by year, and there's a really strange kind of time dilation. Maybe it's also because of this year, which for a whole host of reasons feels like it's never going to end, and there's lots of excitement happening in the dying days of 2020. But yeah, 10 years seems like a really long time, and then also not very long at all. So when I was looking through the list, I was like, really? That was all 2010?
Well, no, I mean, I felt the opposite. I was like, right, 2010, what games were out in 2010? I was like, oh shit, the 360 was still in effect.
Yeah.
And I was like, fucking hell, we're already 2 generations on from that. Well, I suppose it's just your concept of time and stuff like that. I mean, my 360 is still in action. But yeah, it's... I was surprised to see how many I could have put on that list ones that didn't quite make it as well. But we'll talk about that after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to give a quick rundown of what happened in the 2010s in terms of gaming, I guess. So the hardware that we had, and this really shocked me, is the 3DS in 2011 and the Vita. So kind of the last of the proper handhelds, I guess. Who knows if we'll ever go back there. The Wii U, obviously, and then the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. That was in 2014. Wii U is 2012.
Yeah.
Switch came out in 2017.
You still had the Wii at the start of this decade as well. Yeah.
And then we're in a strange situation. I don't know if you'd call the current glorified PC consoles as the 9th generation.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. And to be honest, I'm just not really.
Let's just call it the 5th generation. The only.
Fifth?
Yeah, the only people that have been nice about it is PlayStation. And at least they actually have like PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4. Now we're on the PlayStation 5. Let's just call it the 5th generation. Everyone else can, fuck off. They haven't done it right,
Okay. Because of course there wasn't no gaming before the PlayStation 1.
No, absolutely not.
Alright, okay. Other stuff, I think, other kind of major trends that happened from the 2010s. A couple of ones that I picked out. Like, game releases kind of became very strange and very fluid in a way that we didn't really have before 2010. So, for example, Final Fantasy VII has been released 9 times in the last 10 years. Doom has been released 5 times in the last 10
Doom
years.
has probably been many, many million times more than that, because it's during the trend of can you get Doom to run on it, and you've got people who are running it on the the CPUs that are in washing machines.
I saw one on a Samsung fridge the other day.
Nice.
I think we've really hit the stride with remasters. We get plenty of those now, as well as your usual prequels and sequels. In the 2010s, we got this kind of new genre of game, which is like the games which people are playing for years before they're actually released in these kind of weird public alphas. Games as a service really ramped up. I guess we've had it on PC for ages, but now it seems every other game is a game as a service. And we got ports aplenty, which I think was particularly important for all these platform jumping indies, where now you just release it on everything.
That whole spate of Hollow Knight-esque and Cupheads and stuff like that. Everything just sort of
Shovel Knight as well. And I think with a couple of those as well, we had. What are you eating?
Nothing. My crinkling wrapper's too loudly. Sorry, man.
Streets. It's alright. I thought you were paying attention. No, you're eating Twiglets.
I actually do have Twiglets.
You just got a pack of Twiglets.
They're really far away. And don't worry, I'm not eating it. I fucking hate that. That is a pet hate of mine. It's like when you're listening to a podcast and it's like, bro, I was just fucking blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, you're on a podcast, mate. Just don't fucking eat. I was actually secretly doing a little bit of rapping. just a little bit. I wasn't eating. But yeah. Sorry. Go on. You're doing a great rundown. You're doing a good job.
I do research and you're like, oh fuck, I'll just catch up on my Christmas rapping. We also saw in line with all these kind of platform hopping indie games, we saw the rise of the Kickstarter game, and I think that's what really kickstarted. All of that with just we'll put on another stretch goal, and if we hit that stretch goal, we'll bring it to the Switch or we'll do whatever.
Yeah.
I would say we almost, as I mentioned earlier, we almost saw the end of gaming systems. I'd say there's particularly where we are at the moment with the PlayStation 5 and whatever the fuck this current new Xbox, whatever it's called.
Scarlet.
There's very little. It's just different kinds of PCs in a box. Very few exclusives these days. It's kind of all about performance and I guess where your friends are and that kind of connectivity. So I guess it's pretty much just the Switch hanging in there as a its own gaming platform. And then lastly, mobile games, love them or hate them. They got. I was going to say good, but I don't believe that.
Yeah. No, I was about to ask the fateful question. Farley, in 2010 to 2020, did mobile goods get any good yet?
Did mobile goods get any games yet?
Oh, fucking hell.
Let's not necessarily say they got good, but they got big, right? So if you look at the top selling games per year in the back half of 2020, it's all these huge either gachas or League of Legends rip-offs or Candy Crushes, which are, just doing huge numbers in Asia and North America. And I think there's been a bit of settling around gachas as the format for mobile games, as much as we kind of hate it. So that's all. If we rewind back to 2010, and as you said, we're still on the DS, we're still playing the Wii, the 360, and if we look at where we are today, it is quite different, but it hasn't really changed. I think we talked about this in one of the podcasts before. We've not really had that big revolution, I guess. So that was kind of one of the things that was exciting about the Wii, and it was a completely different way to play, and that was really popular. There was I think it's fair to say an abortive attempt at VR. So at the beginning of the year, beginning of the decade, we saw Kinect and PlayStation Move. VR's all but dead, I think.
Well, speaking of dead, there was also, this was the decade of the death of the plastic instruments.
Yeah. What was the last rock band to squeak?
Oh god, the last Rock Band, there was one in, I think it's Rock Band 4, came out in the PS4.
Okay.
Yeah, and but they also had that ridiculous Guitar Hero, which had the whole new control system in it. But it's just dead. Although we were talking about that one that came from the Guitar Hero guys, the DJing one.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did that come out? Is it any good?
I don't know. I don't know. And it's obviously just not got that place in culture that kind of rock band is. And we also saw, I think, the entire life cycle of Toys to Life, right? From Amiibo to Disney Infinity to Lego Dimensions to Skylanders. Now I guess it's just Amiibo, which are sort of hanging in there. They announced 3 for Monster Hunt, the new Monster Hunter games. I'm like, wow, who is still using Amiibo? No one's. But there's not really much you can do. I use them because I've got them, but there are these games coming out. Pokemon Sword and Shield. No Amiibo connectivity at all. Okay, fine. So, anything you add to the last 10 years when we were kind of delving through these big lists?
No, nothing really. We had lots of remasters. Yeah, we had a ton of sequels. But I think gaming lends itself much, much better to sequels than movies do. I did a good roundup. I don't have much more to add there.
Yeah, and what do you think about what I was saying in terms of there isn't really that revolution, right? If we look at the I guess what early PlayStation 3 games were kind of doing, it just seems to be more of the same, right? There's a lot of photorealism going on.
Obviously, graphics and the power and the art that can be done within games is massively improving. If you look at games from 10 years ago to now, you can see there is definitely an increase of seeing less polygons. There's definitely more immersion getting caused as well. There's one thing that I noticed, especially around third persons, is quite often the character you're playing as doesn't blend in well. You can see the edges, you can see that they are, a polygonal object in a 3D world. Whereas more and more nowadays, you almost can't see your character's edges. It becomes more and more movie-like, and it's great. I mean, I think that kind of level of immersion is fantastic, the photorealism and stuff like that. But at the same time, everybody is just already, everybody is fully aware that photorealism doesn't necessarily make a good game. You can have shit like Among Us, which is like little cartoony things, and people are having way more fun with that than they are with, the latest Far Cry or whatever, that's pumping out, 144 frames per second or whatever,
Yeah, and I guess that's who knows what we'll be doing in another 10 years, but that'll be kind of what we were heading into the 2020s with, was battle royales. They're still out there, but they're kind of on the wane, I think, unless you're one of the big two. And yeah, this bizarre, I mean, I'm all for it, but this bizarre return to kind of like essentially what were party games back in the day, but kind of online and making the most of lots of people connecting.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I know we've mentioned it before, do you see that there's potentially going to be another 100 versus 1?
Yeah. I mean, that is just like the best news ever, and thank God, it was such a fun game.
Yeah.
Even just to take part in. You're not worried about fucking winning a car or whatever shit. It was just like, that is a fun experience, Like, if you've got a battle royale, turn it into a fucking quiz. Get people on board. It's fun, But yeah, I don't understand why that just didn't catch on. I don't know. In general, I find party games or quiz games, like, they are quintessentially a game that you want to play, and it's with mates and stuff like that. I find it a little contrived when you have to do like some of these asymmetrical multiplayers. You play as Jason and 4 people hiding wardrobes away from you, or that sort of stuff. But when you've just got a straight up board game quiz going on the go, it's so accessible and so much fun. I just don't understand why it just doesn't take it off more. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, particularly with the year that we've had, I think the only one I'd say amongst not heavy gamer friends that has had any kind of success is probably Overcooked. I think.
Sorry, what?
Overcooked. Is it Overcooked?
What?
Is it Overcooked?
Overcooked.
Yeah.
Right, I thought you were pretending you were cutting out. I thought you were going overcooked.
No, Overcooked.
Overcooked. Yeah, then there's a sequel coming out for it as well.
Yes. If it's not already out. But yeah, that was one of the strange things I think about perhaps the last note on this, then we'll hit our list.
Oh yeah, it's Team 17. So it's Worms.
Yeah.
I have not even touched it. I'm just aware that it's a thing, and it's the same with Among Us. It's just like, alright, okay, I know that it's a thing. People like it. You gotta pretend to not be a bad guy. Great. Cool. I've got the concept. Am I gonna play it? Nobody's got time for that when you have to grind for consumables for knacks.
Okay, kick us off. What's your first game of the decade?
Okay, Mr. Default Man. I am going for Skyrim as my game of the decade.
Yeah, I saw that on the list. I imagined you'd mention it.
On the list. Skyrim I put so much time into, and I don't think there was a point where I wasn't enjoying it. That's the thing. As an RPG, it's so well rounded and that you can do anything with your character, and they've got really cool trees that you can go down to improve all of your skills, and that leveling up process is a lot of fun. Not to mention the actual full open world, which is completely, do what you want to do. Be a bad guy, be a good guy, be a sneaky guy. You've got all these different options. more than I just said, which was 3.
It's the 3 main ways of being a guy.
or a girl, of course. Or a lizard, or a cat, or whatever. But yeah, it's just like it survived it so well, and I don't feel like it's even that dated. And I mean, where you do get an awful lot of RPGs that give you that third-person view, like The Witcher and things like that, this one just throws you right in as an FPS. And I mean, I find it quite impressive still that, because I get annoyed with FPSs in a lot of levels, but as an RPG, it's managed to successfully do an FPS at the same time. I think it is still impressive to play and enjoy on that level. Along with that, I think there's just, the world feels very nice to be in as well. Okay, yeah, it's pretty, all that sort of stuff. But it feels very alive. The NPCs, you can very, very quickly understand what an NPC is in Skyrim. You know, looking behind the curtain or lifting the skirt or whatever analogy we want to use there. Pulling
back the foreskin.
Pulling back the foreskin. But yeah, it is still very easily. It's very easy to re-immerse yourself in that and be happy that NPC is doing what they're doing, and you can almost think, give them a bit more humanity, I guess is the word I'm looking for, rather than being AI. But yeah, I think it feels a bit more like a living, breathing world than a lot of other RPGs do, where, it's like, oh look, here's generic Badman 1, whereas this one, you do get people having conversations. Yeah, sometimes you'll start to hear the same conversations over and over again, and you can really fuck them over. Like, in the middle of a conversation, be really, really sneaky, shoot one guy in the face, the other guy doesn't notice. Must have been the wind. That sort of stuff. And that can be like game breaking and immersion breaking. But at the same time, I don't know. It's got a lot of charm. There's a lot that I love about the world of Skyrim, and there's still stuff being made for it, which is really, really cool. Now, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago they brought out the special edition on Steam, which has got like hyped up graphics, better resolutions, all that sort of stuff. A game that is from 2010, and now 6-7 years on, they've made it a little bit better and given everyone access to it. But along with that, there's just this massive modding community, which like, they spend all of their time like creating new skins, new characters. There's even like the very, very famous one, which is Skyblivion, which you've heard of, yeah?
Yeah, I think we talked about it on the podcast.
Oh yeah, but exactly. I mean, that stuff is going on. This is a game that's still alive and has a very, very active community about it. And I mean, I actually last year I was thinking, what is a Christmassy game? And I was just thinking, well, Skyrim's got a lot of snow in it. It's not very Christmassy, but at the same time, I like snow. So I kind of replayed that again, and it was just so fun to go in and play it. But I didn't continue playing it purely because, one, I knew how long I would need to spend to get my character to a level that I liked it. Yeah, I mean, it's a huge time investment, but it was just, when you did it that first time, it was so much fun to go there and explore. And I remember having a save file which had me down in the Dwemer Undergrounds, and I had to keep pushing through, and this save file, like, I think I spent about 24 hours of actual in-game time trying to get in and out of, not in-game time, actual real time, just trying to get out of that cave. You know, I was saving it, was reloading it, still in this cave, and it's just a massive underground fortress, and it's just like, this is cool. This is a dungeon in a game, and I'm spending forever in it looking for stuff and finding secrets and all this sort of stuff, and it's only one dungeon. Yeah, it's a massive one, and people who played it know the dungeon I'm talking about, but there's so much to do in that game that ideally you just won't ever do it all. Like, especially if you factor in the fact that you can have a million different mods as well, or you have to play it through with different characters. It's just so much, but it's just so much fun being in that world, and it's just, yeah, because of things like fast travel, you're always going to be able to just dive straight into the action. But yeah, I don't have much negative to say about Skyrim. Yeah, there's some immersion breaking stuff, and there's like, it is an old game. It still feels very, very relevant and new-ish. So yeah, that's why it makes my top for the decade. It's still there, and I have very, very fond memories of it. What about you, Farley?
No, just a few points on Skyrim.
Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
As you allow it.
Yeah, I suppose you're allowed. Okay, fine.
Obviously, famously, I've only kind of started Skyrim about 10 different times and barely got out of the first village.
Kill a chicken
without massacring everyone. But we'll obviously see what's happening with the Elder Scrolls. But a part of me imagines we won't kind of see a game like that again, right? It was single player.
Yeah.
There was no kind of games as a service stuff. I guess bits of DLC. And yeah, it was really kind of a first time that oh wow, you sort of actually playing Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Elder Scrolls 5 will stray away that much from that, what's it called, that formula. I think we'll still have a very solid single-player campaign, even if they do add some multiplayer-ness in there. But Bethesda have already been down that route with Fallout 76. They are not going to go full balls deep with, what's it called? With everything being online. They've got their own MMO as well, apparently, which I've never played. You played it?
What is it?
The Elder Scrolls Online.
Oh yeah, no.
So I think whatever Elder Scrolls 5 game is, and I believe it's a Return to Morrowind or something, it's going to be very similar, but probably different level up mechanics and all that sort of stuff.
And then I guess potential spoilers. Why did this make the list and not Fallout?
Well, you don't know what the rest of my list is.
I know, that's why I said it might be spoilers.
Well, actually, I had to choose between Fallout and Skyrim. And Skyrim, I don't know, it appeals more to me in that sort of fashion. Fallout was good. Fallout 3 and Fallout 3 New Vegas, and then Fallout 4. I don't believe Fallout 4 was as good as Fallout New Vegas. I don't know, I think that's a generally expressed, Fallout New Vegas is the best of the lot. And I had a great time playing those games. But I think when I finished playing them, I was done. I'm happy. I don't need to come back. Whereas with Skyrim, there's constant like, yeah, you know what, I could go back and I could enjoy myself. Fallout feels more, yeah, I'm dusted. I've done the main plot, I'm good.
Do you think the setting, because you mentioned a couple of times that the world of Skyrim is a nice place to be, both in terms of being a living place, but also being very pretty. And might that be a factor? Because post-apocalyptic.
Well,
oh my god.
Yeah.
Post-apocalyptic setting.
Post-apocalyptic.
Post-apocalyptic. They aren't nice places to be. By definition.
Arguably, there are lots of places that aren't very nice to be in Skyrim as well. Is like there is horrible caves that you can spend, a full 24 hours in and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say that I get what you're saying. Like, that is post-apocalyptic. You are going through trash. You are going through this retro-futuristic world. That's the other thing. Is like, I was talking about Fallout to someone, and I was just sort of saying, yeah, it's basically just Skyrim or Oblivion or Elder Scrolls, but in the future. And I'm like, well, actually, no, it's not in the future. It's in an alternate universe, which is based off of 50s where the atom bomb hit. And then you're just kind of like, maybe that's why Fallout doesn't sit. It's fun to have that retro-futuristic-ness world, but is it as comfortable as just a generic fantasy world?
Yeah.
But yeah, regardless, when I said pretty, I actually, or a nice place to be, I was just meaning the prettiness of everything. Like, yeah, okay, you're always like 5 minutes away from a dragon, spitting fire in your face. But at the same time, you've got this wonderful scenery and like living, breathing wind blowing through the grass. It just makes everything feel nice and pretty. And you do get that. It's just a different aesthetic in Fallout, I would say.
Cool.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Enough banging on about Bethesda.
This podcast's gonna run long. Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, Farley, you're up next.
So we saw 3DS in 2011, and so when thinking about the decade, I didn't want the decade to pass without acknowledging the 3DS. It was just such a fantastic system. It really felt like, and this is kind of the halcyon days of gaming, I guess, for me, because I keep referencing it. But it really felt like the early days of the PlayStation. You had tons of different games going on, of all different kinds of genres. Then you got your virtual console kind of stuff in, and yeah, it was just a real pleasure to have it with you and to play, and had some great little games on it. So I was thinking, okay, if I had to pick a 3DS game, which one would I pick?
Is it the main obvious one, or is it?
Well, yeah. I was resisting it as much as possible, but then anything else that I could put in that slot, if you like, just felt like, really, is that what you're gonna? Would you really have a leg to stand on to fight for this being a game of the decade? So, Resident Evil Revelations was in there, but of course they got ported everywhere else. Didn't have the 3DS features. Fire Emblem, both Fire Emblem Fates and Awakening were in there as well. But I'm going to have to go with Pokemon Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield.
Whoa. Fucking get the names right. Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield.
Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Sorry. It didn't sound right when I said it. Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. We had a load of Pokemon games in the decade, and we had quite a few on 3DS alone.
Yeah, so, let's not talk about the spin-off games. They're not even worth talking about, I think.
But yeah, from I think Black and White was 2010 on the DS. Then we had X and Y, Sun and Moon, and then Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. So yeah, I mean, you're not going to get any fantastic novel takes on Sun and Moon in the course of this podcast. Oh, hang on. Real world activities.
All right. Okay.
No, we're fine. Strange. Apologies.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield.
Ultra.
Ultra and Ultra Moon. The last of the truly portable Pokemon games, I guess. Excluding the Switch. And they pulled together all the kind of experimentations that we'd seen in other DS and 3DS games. So it was, I guess, sort of a MMO in a way.
Fuck. No. Okay. You can say that. I'm not going to go into that argument, but I'm going to defend the listeners right now. They're just like, you what? And that is not an MMO by any means or stretch of the imagination. But go on, Farley.
Well, it obviously is. You were just button presses away from trading, battling, otherwise interacting, trading. Of course, all of this is handled much better with Sword and Shield on the Switch.
Yep.
But it was amazing to kind of squeeze all that into this one little 3DS game. And it made the most of, and it's one of the things I do miss actually is this second screen gaming.
Yeah.
For all the iterations of the DSs. Yeah. So sometimes I do find myself when playing Pokemon on the Switch, missing that kind of bottom screen because you could just do an amazing kind of amount of just multitasking. Also, it was. The DS was fantastic for lazy gaming. You could lay down on your side and then just with finger prodding, get yourself through battling or whatever. Of course, all the usual wonderful things about Pokemon and bringing all your guys from all the way from the GBA through, and the setting of Sun and Moon was okay, I think. There was lots to do, lots of dailies, stuff like that. Yeah, it was fun and nice, and of course, I'm not really even talking about what that game brought to us, but it was the last one where we had both kind of Z-Move crystals and Mega Evolution.
Yeah.
Both of which are missed by people. So yeah, so I'd say not necessarily the best Pokemon game, but if we had to kind of somehow memorialize the 3DS and its passing in the last decade, that would be a fitting game to do so.
No, I tend to agree with you, and we've talked about this before. Like, my use of the 3DS was slightly different. It was basically a thing that I always had on me. It was a commute burner. It was, anytime I just had a little bit of downtime or whatever, it was just like bring out the DS, flick it open, and I continue playing whatever Pokemon thing that I was doing, whether it was shiny hunting or whatever. But it was basically, I had very little else in my 3DS other than whatever the latest generation Pokemon game it was. But I'm glad that you've put that in there and memorialized it. And yeah, let's move on because everybody knows that we're just going to talk about Pokemon.
Yeah.
All right.
What's your next one?
What's my next one? So, my favorite Pokemon. I'm going to talk about, again, Mr. Generic. If you look up a fucking list of any of these games, this one's going to be on, any of these games from the last decade. This one's going to be on there. And I'm going to choose Batman Arkham City.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, you played it, Farley?
No, I haven't played any of those games.
Okay, cool. Well, the Arkham trilogy or Arkham quadrilogy, yeah. Just a fantastic, fun world to play in. Playing as Batman is great. You've got his gadgets, you've got his detectiveness, you've got the ability to sort of, do the hook wire up and glide through the city, and the city again feels alive. Yeah, okay, it's the same generic thugs over and over and over again, but it's still fun because when you encounter the thugs, you get to move into that sort of fighting side of things where Batman uses all of his like ninja type moves and reversals and all these counters, and just doing that is a lot of fun, along with actually just having a chat with like the Batman villains or heroes. There's Nightwing doing his thing, or Catwoman, or oh look, there's the Riddler popping up on my screen saying this, or the Joker voiced by Mark Hamill. Amazing stuff. Really, really just a fun Batman universe created. If you like Batman in any way, and I know that you have your issues with Batman, this is a great game that encapsulates that sort of world. I've chosen Arkham City rather than Arkham Knight. Arkham Knight being the latest one in the series, I believe. I really hope I'm right. But yeah, Arkham Knight's the one where you get the Batmobile and you get to go around in the Batmobile, and it is the worst addition to that game. Playing as this weird tank thing and then getting forced into these sort of tank ranged battles, and it was just not fun. It was a really, really bad addition to the game. It was like, why are we doing this? I had way more fun punching bad guys, and that, it was a very, very bad addition to the game. I don't know if that is a general consensus, but I would have preferred that the Batmobile was a means to get from place to place faster and faster, or was like a way that you gated some of the content because you had to get upgrade X to get the Batmobile to go through here or whatever. That's fine. I don't mind that. It's just basically another set of tools for Batman to use. But when you had to do the fighting with it, it was the most boring, repetitive, because they kept doing it, thing in that game. But Arkham City doesn't have the Batmobile in it, and it's way more fluid. Loads of secrets, loads of fun, loads of things to find. It's like, you like the Assassin's Creed series, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's basically Assassin's Creed, but Batman, and a bit more. Well, I don't think it's any less polished, but it's more polished than the first Assassin's Creed game that I played, and I haven't played any since. But it's quite similar in that sort of fashion. But yeah, I'll pass it over to you in case you have any comments to make on the Batman series. I don't think you do.
No, I don't. No. Beyond how it's quite interesting in that in the fairly arbitrary exercise of comparing Marvel and DC, whereas DC kind of just can't seem to do very well when it comes to the box office. They seem to handle their TV series and games really well. I think, if we were to compare, this might be a podcast coming up, if we were to compare DC games versus Marvel games, DC has a much, there are some proper bum games in there, but the best of them are kind of better than.
Quite honestly, I can't think of a Marvel game outside of maybe like the Lego Marvel ones.
There are these weird kind of like Diablo clone,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wait a minute! Yes, of course. There's the Marvel superheroes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually quite good. I enjoyed that one. But the sequel was bad.
Anyway, let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Right, what's your next one?
My next game from 2013 is The Last of Us on the PlayStation 3. So again, another one that you will find atop many of these lists.
Okay.
You haven't played it, have you?
No, is that the one with the plants?
Yeah, with the fungus zombies. And the reason why I like it, much of these reasons, I think, is why everyone liked it. There's this really, really compelling story that set you after a zombie, but not zombie apocalypse. And it was just beautifully scripted, looked gorgeous, kind of dragged you through this fallen city that just made the whole thing feel kind of really really believable. Excuse me. And then tells a story between your sort of your two protagonists. So it's a lot of what it's got going for it is just polished. It's just very polished and very tight, and just kind of like a breeze to kind of play through, in terms of needing excuses to play it. I played it with my wife, and from the minute it went on, both of us were kind of talking about it and thinking about it until we got through to the end. But part of the reason why it's on my list,
a sort of third-person action shooter, doesn't it? Sort of stealth part.
Yeah. I mean, it's really not. It really wasn't doing anything particularly novel. There's kind of a crafting system, and there's a gear system, and there were workbenches, and there were chapters. But everything it did did really, really well. But the reason why it's on my list is because I remember, it might not be the case, but I remember it kind of almost single-handedly, bringing single-player games, back into, you can release a successful single-player game.
Yeah, because everything, it doesn't have any online functionality, does it?
No, it doesn't. And at the time, it just seemed that everything was about online, playing online, multiplayer games. It was particularly when, the way I remember it, right? Other people will have different recollections of the decade.
Yeah.
But it was the big Call of Duty and what's the other one? That series.
Rainbow Six.
No, the other one. I don't think it's doing well. No, Christ, no. Whatever the other one was, and just all your magazine coverage and all your news site coverages would just be about these two online shooters, and everything was about online and blah blah blah. And then this came out and blew everyone's minds, and I believe kind of responsible for sort of re-establishing the kind of and so for that reason, it's a great game on its own, but also it kind of readjusted the balance of the gaming live stream, if you like, and then now we have all these I think is partly responsible for having these nice single player games beyond your kind of other kind of RPGs. And then almost fittingly, The Last of Us 2 came out, and the way in which that came out, and all the whinging and toxicity around it is kind of sums up, I think, where we are currently in gaming in 2020. So it's kind of a nice point and counterpoint. First one came out was almost universally loved. Second one came out and like many films, like lots of things these days, the jury had condemned the game, before anyone had actually.
So, have you played the second one?
No, I haven't. No.
Oh, okay. No. Are you gonna?
I am, but it's partly for the reasons I just mentioned. It's one of those things where it's like, actually, I'm gonna wait for the nonsense and noise to blow over, and so that all the discourse just kind of has a time to disappear, and then just play it afresh. So expect podcast in 5 years' time. The Last of Us 2 is actually quite good.
Classic. Yeah. Our stone cold takes. Years again.
But yeah, I mean, sometimes that's nice because otherwise you just. There was a film that we went to see. I can't remember what film we went to see together. But I remember talking about it beforehand, and it was, just embroiled in all the opinions about the thing, mostly from people who haven't seen it. But that does kind of get in your head and impact how you engage with.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This media sometimes.
Yeah.
So yes, I'm looking forward.
Like, for instance, if Richie recommends something to you, you're automatically trepidation. Is this some weeb shit?
Yeah, or if I tell you that Revelations and Revelations 2 are very good games, you'll just never play them. Buy them repeatedly, just never play them. Have you got like a clock somewhere, and every time I mention Revelations, you reset the clock? So, no.
Yeah, well, okay. Don't need to play that again for another 2 years.
Back to 2 years away. Yeah, okay. So yeah, that's The Last of Us. Anything to add?
I have no clue about The Last of Us. I think is that the one where Elliot Page is in it, or
yes, that's the one where Elliot Page is actually in it, not the one where basically his likeness was just stolen and put into the game. I think that was one of the Quantic Dream games, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
Yeah, I think there's a character who looked exactly the same, and everyone was like, okay. Yeah, it's the one that Elliot actually got paid for.
Okay. I've seen like the art of the zombies. That's about it, really. I've not seen much more in the sort of level of like actually playing it or like gameplay. I think I saw you playing it briefly, actually, and you were going through a sort of junkyard, and you were being really quiet behind cars.
Yeah,
and
I almost know exactly the bit you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was human people who were chasing you, not zombies.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, that's a great story for everybody listening about that one time I watched you play a bit from The Last of Us, and yeah. Hot take, Richie. Hot take.
Lots for everyone to take away and learn from there. Thank you, Richie.
Yeah. And
what's your next game, you madman?
Because I was thinking about the games that I've spent the most amount of time and ones that I enjoyed, I have gone for, and we talked about this before, the classic Hyperdimension Rebirth Part 3, the other one. Yeah. And I spent a lot of time on that game. It just sort of made me fall in love with RPG mechanics. Turn-based was just so cool. The characters. And they're good fun to engage with. The dialogue is hilarious, and it creates this weird world, and when I heard about the concept of, I'm going to use that word again, Farley. Do you know what word it is?
Unenviable?
No.
Apocalyptic?
Anthropomorphic.
Okay,
yeah. Consoles sort of reimagined as anime girls, but they are like goddesses as well. It's just fun, weird, wacky. But on top of that, the game is it's really good RPG stuff. Turn-based, level up, get the thing. Oh no, the enemy's too difficult. Right, I can either do this, use some consumables, or I can go and grind and level up and do this in another place. And there's reasons to revisit the dungeons, and I don't know. It was a fun time, I think, playing through that game, and I played through that in the Vita. So a little nod to the Vita for our last decade of handhelds.
Yeah, pouring one out for the Vita.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say than we do already have another podcast of a show that is entirely dedicated to why the Hyperdimension set of games is really cool. Farley, you've still not played it or never will play it. It's your revelations.
No, yeah, it's not really my thing. I did spot this though when I was going through the lists. So this entire series has happened in the 2010s, right? The first one came out 2010.
I think so. Yeah. And so the latest one, which you actually gave me the news one, is due out. I think around the start of next year. The Triple V one, which has all of these YouTube virtual
virtual YouTubers.
And they're gonna be starring in it. Like, what the fuck? This is a weird world we live in. Not sure I'm gonna get that one. I still actually have to play through the very latest Mega Dimension one, which I haven't touched. I don't know why, because it's the same and it's fun, but for some reason, just can't get past playing it. But I had a great time playing the third one, where everything was just nice and refined. And originally the mechanics, you could only have 3 people in the party, then you had 4, and then there's positional stuff, and then there's throwing together the combos to do turn-based damage. A lot of fun. Great time was had playing that one. And I don't know if I can dwell much more on this.
Okay, go and listen to our podcast on Hyperdrive Neptune if you would like to know more.
Cool. So what have you got next?
So my next one, I deliberated a lot over what the 4 would be, and this was one of the later editions. So the last one on my list is Splatoon, specifically Splatoon 1 on the Wii U. Part of the reason why it's on there is because it's one of a handful of games that hasn't been ported off the Wii U. I mean, the sequel came out on the Switch, so I guess there's no need to. And yeah, I thought it was just a great little new IP. I remember when.
Would you Sorry, just to very, very quickly pause on that one.
Yeah.
Would you argue that there does need to be a remake of the first one, or does the second one just capture everything that you need?
I think the second one captures everything you need. It is better in every way, particularly when you factor in the Octopath expansion, which does something very different to Splatoon and Splatoon 2 core game.
Okay.
But it's very good. So yeah, it's more of a again pouring one out for the Wii U to pick Splatoon over what should obviously be the choice of Splatoon 2, which also came out in the decade.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember it being announced and everyone being like, "What the hell is this game?" Because they did that thing where they dressed up as scientific researchers and called it the Squid Research Lab, and it all seemed a bit cringy. It's like a new IP, and then it landed and was just fantastic. It's really great. First of all, it was Nintendo doing a shooter, then based on this mechanic of not necessarily shooting each other, but inking out the different arenas. The characters were kind of an instant hit, and if you know the kind of design history of Splatoon, it was fairly late in the day when they decided on what seemed like an obvious choice of what things should we have running around that's got ink. I think at one point they were rabbits, these weird rabbits. So to base them around squid and then later octopuses is kind of like this great decision. Then you've got all the fashion brands, many of which have become real world items. The music is and I don't use this word often, phenomenal. The both albums have been released. They were also the kind of the virtual idols in both games regularly perform live holographic concerts. And then the kind of the single player bit to it, which acted like your training and could have been completely throwaway, is as important a part of it as the multiplayer, with these really memorable, boss battles, each having a different spin on what kind of things make an impression or paint or stamp, and probably along with Splatoon 2, one of the best, most memorable, certainly, end boss battles in of the 2010s, particularly when you throw up the kind of the music work that's going on behind them. So yeah, Splatoon.
Cool.
And then now where don't we find the Inklings? They're in Mario Kart, they're in Smash, they've got their own manga.
Do they have a character in Smash?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course they do. Of course they do.
Yeah, and a stage, and a hat, and assist trophy.
No, I was just meaning I forgot briefly if there was a playable version of it. That's all.
Yes, yeah, because I think in the Smash for the Wii U and 3DS, you could dress up. You dress your Mii as an Inkling. Yeah, and then they were one of the first new characters for Smash Bros. Ultimate. And yeah, but it's as you probably gathered if you listen to this podcast, I'm not a huge fan of online games. To be honest, something stresses me out, particularly competitive games, on kind of playing online. And for the most part, once you're done with the story, Splatoon and Splatoon 2 are online games. But it's not one where you feel like, you can jump in with any old equipment, and somehow, I'm not too sure how they manage it, you can still do quite well. It's not one of these games. What were we talking about last week or the week before? Where, if you've not logged in for weeks, you log in, everyone's overgeared, and you just don't stand a chance. Diablo? Weirdly, Diablo. No, Hearthstone. Hearthstone was what it was.
Overgear. I love the fact that
overgeared with my.
That's a great perception of a TCG. Oh, this guy's got too many packs. He's overgeared.
Yeah, he's overgeared, basically. So even if you're leveling up really crappy equipment or you're years behind, and this still needs iterating to some people depending on the team you're matched up with.
Yeah,
it's all about painting the arena. Or make sure you paint the arena whilst you're taking out other guys. Because that's what the final score is based on. So yeah,
cool.
Splatoon.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played Splatoon in any fashion. It's one that's just sort of passed me by.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always say for the Wii U, certainly. Again, shout outs to having dual screens. There was a little bit added by you could see how well your team were doing by glancing down at the bottom screen rather than pressing a button to bring up the map. It's not a huge loss. Splatoon 2 is fine to play without it, but that was really cool. And it took a while to get to, but using gyro controls in a shooter is very good.
Okay.
Yeah, arguably the way to play, I think.
Right. Okay. Cool. This is me cueing you to ask me a question.
Well, go on then. What's your this game?
Okay. Last one. I struggled to choose, so I'm actually going to just take a trilogy of some sort.
Are they packaged in the same box?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Okay.
If you buy them on PC, yeah, they can all be in one box. Yeah.
Go on
then. It's Dragon Age. I think I had more fun on Dragon Age 2 than I did on Inquisition, but in general, I like the Dragon Age series an awful lot. Again, another fantasy-based RPG. This time it is actually third person, but along with that, there's just so much bantering. There is really, really fun mechanics you can play with on an RPG level. I guess, it's... have you played Dragon Age in any fashion at all?
No.
No. Okay.
These lists are shaping up really great for discussion.
Wow, great. Okay. Yeah. Let's dive deeper into why that's 2010. Okay, well, we don't need to go into too much detail on this one, because if you played it, you like it. If you don't, then right up you. But yeah, there's all sorts of fun you can have there. There's gear options, there's rare equipment, there is all the different classes you can play as, all the different races you can play as, and they each get their own dialogues, and it's just fun to interact with the world on that sort of level. Additionally, one of the things that I really sort of really liked was just it was being able to interact with that world. It does feel again like a vivid world. There is I'm not going to talk forever. I don't even know what to say. I spent a lot of time on this game and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
You're just looking for your... One day they'll get there, but, anything... You're just looking to immerse yourself into
I'm actually...
a fantasy world. So between Skyrim, WoW and Dragon Age, you're nearly there.
Yeah, exactly. Some sort of D&D maniac. Don't even like D&D. But yeah, it's, Dragon Age. It combines sort of like the mechanics of World of Warcraft as well. So it had I call it the mechanics of World of Warcraft. You have the tank, you have the DPS, and you have the healers as well. But you have the ability to sort of mess around with that party. You can play as any one of your characters, so you can just quickly switch from tank to DPS to healers, or start queuing up everyone's actions. Great fun, lots to be had, and you can just play
lots to be had.
Lots of fun to be had. Great fun, lots to be had. Yeah. Sorry.
Lots to be had.
Yeah, lots of fun to be had with that alone.
Did it come from anywhere, or is it just a new IP straight to game? Like, is it based on books or something else?
It's BioWare. So I don't know if it has its origins in... Oh god, literally the first one is called Dragon Age Origins. I don't know if it has some other media, like a George R.R. Martin book somewhere or something stupid like that. It is just but I mean, BioWare did exactly the same thing as sort of Fallout and Skyrim did, in that they have Mass Effect, which is basically Dragon Age in space, with that space sort of simulator trading thing, mining planets tacked on as well. I didn't get into Mass Effect in anywhere near as much as I did with the Dragon Age. I just felt a little bit more... The combat seemed a little bit more fluid. It was... it was a bit more familiar, having mages and, knights and archers, as opposed to... But I can't even remember what it was. In Mass Effect, you've got, like, space weapon people, but they also have got, like, psionics as well. Yeah. So they could create
one of your
shields.
One of your generic space trappings.
Yeah. And it didn't sit as comfortable with me as dragons do.
Yeah, the reason I mentioned it earlier is it's even though I've heard you talk about these games, and obviously you've been playing WoW for a long time, I never really had you figured for like a fantasy man.
Yeah, I don't know if I am. It's just it just happens to be the games that I don't know, like. RPG mechanics are I think is also what drags me to Pokemon as well. Like I spend a lot of time thinking about combos and like how to maximize DPS. Obviously it's turn based, but I spend a lot of time thinking about that sort of stuff. And it's like I remember when I'm playing. When most games, I always try and find some kind of loophole that just ridiculously makes one thing stupidly powerful, glass cannony, and I'll usually go down that route and just sort of fuck around with the stats as much as possible, and that's a lot of fun, and that can be done. And in fact, that is the way you play World of Warcraft. But and also in other games, it's just I like skill trees and I like RPG mechanics, but that being said, with things like Skyrim and Dragon Age, they've got a great story and they've got great characters around it. So it's like, I don't know, maybe it isn't the setting that is all important. Maybe just Mass Effect is rubbish. Because like you can get into it, and I enjoyed Fallout games as well, don't get me wrong, just do they sit well? I don't know.
Oh god, I'm sorry to have caused some sort of existential.
You opened a window.
Okay, we can move on and perhaps come back to this subject at another time.
Does Richie like fantasy games?
Oh god. Do I?
2021. That Guy's a Maniac, the podcast.
And then you just go out of your way to play nothing but sci-fi games all year.
Yeah.
Just to prove to yourself.
I'm not a fucking geek. I'm not a D&D-er. Right. Does that bring us to the end, or have you?
No, I've got one more.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So tell us this last one, Farley.
My last one, and again, these have come out as quite nice spread across the decade, is Super Smash Brothers Ultimate, which I feel like is cheating, right? It's any discussions about video game soundtracks, it's cheating to include Smash Brothers Ultimate, right? Because it's almost every game soundtrack. What can I say? I just love the fact that it's a fighting game. It's a love letter and history to gaming. The recent additions. So now that we've got Minecraft Steve and Sephiroth has just been added. Just the pure pleasure of playing in a match where you've got Pikachu, Pac-Man, Solid Snake, and Terry, with the singing squid idols from Splatoon in the background, fighting on a mother stage, while there's a Vaporeon Goldeen flapping around. It's just a sheer joy and a pleasure. And who knew that would fit nicely into this kind of very strange fighting game. Of course, we were blessed with the Wii U and 3DS Smash, which I think was a phenomenal to be playing Smash on the 3DS was just so great. Never would have thought that would have happened. But yeah, Ultimate, and it continues. We've still got some characters to come, and we've talked at length about the kind of spirit system and the reimagining of all these different points in gaming history through what item stages and characters we've got in Smash. And it's fantastic. Greatest soundtrack of
I mean, of course, you're right. It does actually encompass pretty much every soundtrack there is.
You really hard pressed. I mean, particularly when you've got things like all of Legend of Zelda sitting in there. Thankfully, with the Sephiroth DLC, maybe it's because Final Fantasy VII Remake's out, that Square Enix have been a little bit more generous with the Final Fantasy VII songs, because when Cloud came with his own stage and 2 Final Fantasy VII songs, which seemed particularly stingy, and then particularly when the Dragon Quest character came, and there's this abundance of Dragon Quest songs. But yeah, there's some great remixes. There's a great Cosmo Canyon remix. There's a great Aeris theme remix. There's a great the song that plays at the opening when you jump off the train. All of that from some fantastic composers just layered on top of this game, and the Sephiroth challenge, if you've not done it, I think that's another nice thing about the game is they don't just stick to a formula. They're always doing these strange little things. It's like when they added the Minecraft character, apparently they had to go and change every single level in the game to accommodate some of Steve's mechanics.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Cool. Well, I mean, you'll cringe, but the last time I played Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was the release of Joker.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
I have no desire to go back to that game. I played the single player campaign. It was great. It was fun. I don't feel like there's any other game there apart from playing it cooperatively or sort of playing versus each other. Do you disagree to that?
Yeah, I often just play it on my own for fun.
But you're not achieving anything, or there's nothing more to do.
Yeah, no, there's nothing more to do. I mean, occasionally jump online, but then you always feel bad because people jump on and they see that you're not playing in Battlefield and you've got items on, and then they're just self-destruct 3 times because they don't want to play it in fun mode. They want to play it in competitive mode. But that's part of the joy of it, right? Is dealing with all the chaos and the wackiness. So sometimes you can even set up the lobbies saying for fun only or whatever. But yeah, no, sometimes just like to set up a level and some items and then just have fun kind of practicing and playing through. And I think that's one of the great things about all these. I mean, obviously you pay for them. It's not a fantastic free thing. But when these new characters are added, you're like, oh, right, okay, yeah, I'll go in. What's the deal with their stage? What's the deal with their moves? Even if you're not gonna kind of
main them.
Main them. You'd like to know kind of what's going on with them. And so I think it came out at the very end of 2018. I can't remember. So yeah, it's nearly 2 years now, and just kind of excuses to hop back in. Be it through, they drip feed these free spirits throughout the year. Then you get these DLCs with spirits. So on the 23rd, I think all the Final Fantasy VII spirits come out. So that'd be great to see how they've imagined Aeris in the Smash engine.
Yeah.
And Rufus and the Turks and what have you. Yeah.
You got any guesses? Who's going to be Aeris? Do you reckon it's going to be Peach? Or
I think Zelda might fit. Although the hair, it might probably Daisy. Does Daisy come in a pink thing? But I'd love for it if the challenge was you had to protect her, and then it was just a bunch of Sephiroth doing the down A move, trying to stab her from the top, and you had to keep her alive for however long. And then you have to be on like a water-based level, which is the number to choose from. So yeah, something like that. We'll see on the 23rd.
Go.
Or maybe Link, because his down B is him with the sword.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
There we go.
Yeah, that's just made it through. quick run through of the ones that didn't make it?
I mean, yeah, we're not going to run down the best games of the last 10 years that we played.
Yeah, because
it's not a full list.
One thing I would say is, like, when I looked at those lists of games, and I was just like, I've never played that game, never played that game, never played that game, or any of the games in that series. I was just like, okay, there's quite a lot that is all on this list that I have not even touched. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's the wonderful world of variance that we live in. Variance? Variety.
Yeah, and the fact that our lists included games that both of us have recommended to each other, but have not even touched. It's a wonderful thing, and I imagine everyone out there has their own games of the decade. Some ones that I noted down as I was going through: Super Mario Galaxy 2 squeaked in 2010. The Last Story, which I think I've talked about endlessly. GTA 5, again, sort of disappointed it didn't make either of our lists. I think it's just so good it kind of gets a buy, right? Is that, I don't need to make space to talk about how good GTA is.
Just to stop on that for a second, GTA 5 is fine as a game, and it's amazing that it's still doing stuff, but I don't feel I like it for the same reason as everyone else likes it. I played GTA 5 for the story. No, for the articles. I felt when I went through GTA 5, I enjoyed the switching between the different characters, the addition of the different, things, doing a little bit of the collecting, finding extra stuff. One of those games where you have no qualms looking up some of the things that are in there, because there's no way you're hitting everything. So you do a few things here and there, you drive around, you enjoy it, and then I was done. I was like, okay, I don't need to play any more GTA, I don't need it in my life. But it still continues on. There's been nothing added to the single player, but there is just this massive plethora of like futuristic cars doing loop-de-loops in the sky.
Yeah, there's modes, there's vehicles, there's
all that sort of stuff. And that none of that appeals to me. So I was just kind of like, okay, I would say that yes, me playing through GTA, playing the 20-hour storyline, I enjoyed it, and it could make a top for me. But at the same time, I didn't invest anywhere near as much time as I did in that as I did with many of my other games. So I just feel like it doesn't hit that level of a game of the decade.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, what we need is the fantasy GTA, and then you'll be right in.
Yeah, fucking dragons everywhere, and I'm fine. Where's the kobolds? There's not enough kobolds in this game.
Hey, right. You and 3 other mages have to break into a store to steal some magic ingredients and then fly away on your dragon.
I'm going to fireball that hooker over there.
Yeah, I think, and this increasingly gets the case. Imagine if you were 10 years younger when GTA came out.
You've
got no responsibilities and an internet connection. Then I could imagine just being completely sucked in. But yeah, I agree. I appreciate it for what it is, and it blows me away that it's all essentially still coming out of that same game, right? Occasionally, I'm like, oh, is there a new GTA? Did I miss a GTA? Oh no, this is still.
Well, there's also the argument of why isn't there a new GTA yet? This is what pisses me off. It's been a long time since GTA 5 came out. I
guess it doesn't really need it. The only thing you're doing with a new GTA is changing the setting.
Well, that's why you've got Red Dead Redemption as well.
Yeah,
it's just GTA with cowboys.
Yeah, but that just does not appeal to me at all.
I like Red Dead Redemption. It was a good game, but again, in the same vein of I've got to the end. I've skinned 20 beavers, and I think I'm done. I know. That I'm quite happy with that. And
however, if you're a magical cowboy, and if those were mud beavers,
Mud Beavers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mario Kart 7 and 8 and 8 Deluxe.
Yeah, golded it.
Well, still need that evidence.
Billy Big Balls.
Yeah. Alien Isolation. All of the Valkyria Chronicles, which I talked about before.
Yeah.
Pokemon.
Yeah,
Resident
so
Evil,
much Pokemon, yeah. Resident Evil
2, Resident Evil 3.
The remasters were great games, but again, I haven't played them to death. I haven't S-classed everything or anything like that. I've only played through it once, it was great to play. It was fantastic to revisit. But there's no desire for me to come back, so I can't really justify that as a game on my list,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's a lot of things on your list are, I guess you were thinking about time investment. Yeah, but I think there's time for like a nice time. Like I quite like that about Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3.
Yeah,
is that they're a great blast. They're there if I ever want to go back to, and I probably will. Like I have done.
And yeah, the same for Devil May Cry 5 as well. That was just a boom, done.
Yeah,
great, happy, new character.
Yeah.
And I was playing that Dragon Ball game a lot as well.
Oh yeah, you were.
Yeah. They brought new stuff out for it, but I don't know if I care that enough.
Is it 17 different Gokus?
Thankfully, they don't separate the Gokus. You can just power up the Gokus. But yeah.
it's Metal Goku. It's Sports Goku. Oh, it's Goku from that episode where he was hungry and his tummy rumbles every couple of minutes.
Okay.
It's wet hair Goku. It's beachwear Goku.
I disagree with your mockery of it here, because ultimately all it changes is his hairstyle.
Dead Space 2 and 3, those came out.
Fuck you.
All the Fire Emblem games. Mario Odyssey, would that be on your...
Mario Odyssey's on my list, yeah. But you've not even played it.
I know, it can still be on my list.
Alright, okay.
Of honourable mentions.
Okay.
Anything else?
I had honourable mentions, but I went down a different route of ones that I'd actually played and spent a lot of time on, but maybe just didn't make it to the tops. So, yeah, I had Mario Odyssey up there. That was a great... it was a good, 40, 50 hours worth of gameplay. And there's still tons more you can do, finding all of the moons and shines or whatever it is. Great, fantastic, and best Mario game yet, easily. I had GTA and Red Dead, which we talked about, but I also had, this is a weird addition in there, Final Fantasy 13-2.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I wondered if that would be on your list.
Yeah, it's on my list. Well, not on my list. But yeah, Final Fantasy 13-2. It's like, I spent a lot of time on that game and thoroughly enjoyed it from start to finish, and did a full, was it called platinuming in PlayStation terms? I did a full thousanding on that one, and it was great. And then it's weird when it came around to Lightning Returns, which I was actually excited about as well. I played for the first hour, and that was that. It's that time-based shenanigans going on in the background, much in the same way as Majora's Mask, of forcing you to do X in the amount of time, and you're just like, I want to be able to do everything properly and give me enough time to do it, not force me into this little box of you can only do a few things and then the game's over. Yeah. I don't know if you know the game that well.
Yeah. I think you've described it to me.
Okay, a million times.
Yeah, in my mind, I may be misremembering that we did a whole Final Fantasy 13 podcast, but I think it's just cobbled together from when you've talked to me about Final Fantasy 13.
Yeah, we've never done a Final Fantasy 13 podcast.
There you go. Add it to the list.
2021, guys. Right, okay. Cool. Anything else to add or list or whatever?
Yeah, I mean, it's endless, really, isn't it? We had some good Monster Hunters. Super Mario Maker was great. All the spaceship fighting games, which I've not talked about. Because we're now in the 2020 was a decade of spaceship fighting games coming back. Etc, etc, etc.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's bring it to an end. Farley, that guy's a maniac.
Why did he bite me?
Hey.